Hi everyone. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly, my software could not work. I could not connect. So just give me 1 second. I just want to make sure, oh gosh, that I'm muted. And then I'm gonna just come in. Sorry about that. Just is sometimes these things happen. I've been in the process of switching live stream software for a while now, and it was working when I tested it yesterday, and today it won't connect. So that is where we're at. I'm just going to give everyone a second. I will undoubtedly maybe get some DMs, so I'm just going to keep that open as well. If you're here, please pop in the chat. But let me just fix that actually as well, and then we can get started. I have a few things I want to talk about today. It is obviously pretty quiet in the Q&A thread this week because I know a lot of us are already in holiday mode and really just focusing on that and finishing up the year the best that we can. And I totally understand. This is our last call for the year, and I just wanted to thank you all so much for being a part of this community this year with me. It has been a really interesting year. It has been for me so much more about personal growth and my own just inner work, coming back to my own self-leadership, really kind of navigating some different experiences this year that have just deepened my own personal work. And it felt really important and like a really important experience as well. So no matter where you're at coming into the end of the year, please just know that, all of it is fine. Everyone is obviously having different experiences and are in different seasons in our lives and in our business. And there is nothing to feel, bad about or compare with what other people are doing or any of that. But what we do at this time of year is to just start to observe and notice what am I bringing with me? What worked well? What do I want to go deeper with this year? What has started to feel like momentum building or like something that's kind of really gonna be something next year? And what am I leaving behind in 2025 as well? So I want to talk a little bit about that today, and I'm just going to check where everyone's at. I may also start changing the times next year because I know that this time in particular is actually not the best time for most people that are in the community currently. So I might move it to actually a Wednesday before our group mentoring calls. But I will put a poll in the group about that as well. So while I'm waiting to see if anyone pops in there, I'm just double checking. Veronica had a question, but I actually did a mini training in the group about what I'm doing behind the scenes, but I will answer that at the end. Just kind of go over that for you. And then if you are here watching live, please feel free to jump in and pop a question in the thread if you have one. But in the meantime, I'm going to just share a few things that are on my mind right now as well to make the most of this time that we have together. Okay, so the first one is that I know so many of us, like I said, whether you're watching this in December or you're watching this on the replay in January, maybe even February, there is going to be something that we all do where we pause, we stop, we slow down over the holidays. In Australia, where I live, this is actually also our summer. So it is summer holidays. We basically put both of our two biggest holidays together at the end of the year just because of the seasons and the way that the earth works. And so for some of you, I know you might be taking just a few days off over the holidays. And for others of you, I know that you may not be coming back to your business really properly until March. And this is something that I see year after year that I really want to talk about now so that you don't have to necessarily be thinking about doing more as we're coming to the end of the year, but just to have in your mind the thought process of how you want to re-enter after taking a break from your business. And the more that we are mindful and intentional about this, the more that we're actually able to build something sustainable as solopreneurs when we don't have a team that's taking over from us while we're on holiday. We don't come back going, oh my gosh, chaos, because I've just completely switched off and not had any thoughts about the business at all, not checked in with anything, not been making any money because I haven't been active in the business, and actually then get into a bit of a panic reactive mode, which we've been talking quite a bit about lately. And what this does is it then puts you into a nervous system spike. You start comparing with whatever everyone else is doing in February, which is a massive online business month for most people. It is a big launch month for a lot of people. And when you have been completely switched off and then you're re-entering at like a peak time where other people are maybe already in go, go, go mode, this is the quickest way to just get overwhelmed, to freak your nervous system out, to feel behind, and to start then getting caught up in the marketing messages of the people who are in launch mode right now because they are specifically, kind of directing their energy and their messaging towards how you're feeling in that moment. So this is something I really wanted to talk about actually how to underthink your way back into your business after taking a break, whether it is over the holidays at this time of year or at another time in the year. It doesn't matter. We all have holidays at different times. But as solopreneurs, it's really something we need to be intentional about because what we don't want is for our business to stop. We want to be thinking about how we can really build on like build a system, build a foundation for ourselves so that even when we're offline, even when we're taking a break, even when we're on holidays, we are still able to have revenue coming into the business so it doesn't just like completely stop. So this is what I'm actually thinking about right now. Sharing less in December, January, like thinking about taking that step back and being less kind of visible, even just with Instagram and things. I'm just finding myself not even wanting to create or even open the app right now, and thinking more about not what's happening right now, where I know a lot of us are in that wind down mode, but really thinking more about what happens when we return after taking that break. And what happens, like, I'm the biggest fan of taking time off. I will take time off during the week. It is not about not resting, not looking after yourself. If you're anything like me, you know exactly that we can't sustain that. But also you'll know if you've been around here for a while that this is something that I care so deeply about, that we are taking care of ourselves first. The quickest way to burn out, to building a business that doesn't support you, that isn't sustainable for you, and is definitely not cozy in that regard, is to not put our needs first and create a business that's aligned with that. So, what we need to really be mindful of instead is not, oh my gosh, I have to work all the way through Christmas and New Year's and all of the things and never take a break because otherwise my business will stop. But to actually be more mindful about what happens before and after those times off. So, it's not about productivity, it's actually about orientation and alignment. It is being proactive. It is thinking about what do I need to finish up before the end of the year, before I take my break? What notes do I need to leave for myself? And this is one of our lovely Emerge and Expand members. She and I have had this conversation a number of times, usually at this time of the year, about actually leaving notes for your future self. So leave notes for yourself now for when you're going to be returning. So say you're taking a couple of months off over summer. If you're in Australia, maybe you're taking some time off, maybe you're traveling, whatever that might be. Leave notes for yourself for when you return because the mindset or the headspace that you are in now is so different from when you've actually been away and taken some time offline. But also leave notes for yourself for this time next year. Because for those of us, especially, I mean, we've all got too much going on in our heads anyway. We're overthinking, we're storing everything in our minds. That's where we get overwhelmed. That's where we get into overthinking mode. That's where we get super drained as more introverted people as well. And for those of us who are neurodivergent on top of that, we also have selective memory, let's call it that. So where we're at now, we may not be able to remember in a year's time. And why should we need to store all of that information in our brains when we have the ability to leave notes for our future selves? So where are you at right now? What would you do differently? I was talking to the Emerge and Expand group the other day, And one of them said, like, oh, I need to leave a note for myself that in November I have, in-laws coming to visit, I have dance concerts, I have all of these things going on. Why would I decide to have three workshops running at the same time? And we'll forget that by this time next year. It's like, oh yeah, I can do that, I can do that. And then it's like, oh, hang on. But last year me said maybe I shouldn't do that. So that is why we really want to think about these things, being proactive by actually setting ourselves up for success. So, thinking of our future self and how we, as our present self, can actually look after them, remember things for them, leave notes for them for our future self so that we don't rely on our memory and our mood and our energy levels at that point in time, which may be just completely different from where we are now. And I think what the assumption is, or the misalignment is for a lot of people, is they have this, different, we all have different kinds of beliefs that we carry with us. So I see lots of different ones. One is like, oh my gosh, if I stop, if I turn off, if I have a break, my business and all the momentum I have built is going to completely stop as well. And we can look after ourselves and set ourselves up by having things like automations and pre-scheduled content and having offers that are going out that are kind of existing in the world and having people that we are still bringing into our space. We can do things like pre-sale offers for when we return so that we know when we come back, we already have those things set up. And there is also this assumption that like, oh, I need to come back strong. I need to keep this momentum going. I need to make up for that lost time. There's a very kind of common misconception that we've all sort of been conditioned to believe, and we all need to start unraveling that within ourselves, that we rest so that we can come back stronger. We rest so that we can do more work. And that is absolutely so socially conditioned in the world that we live in, and something we need to be super mindful of. That is not why we rest. We rest because we are humans that need that. We are cyclical, seasonal beings. We actually require rest in order to be able to just survive. And it's not always about coming back strong. It's not always about bigger and bigger and bigger every single year, even though, and I know this, we have all been taught that's what success in our business should look like. So it is thinking about things like how can I gently transition in and out of these seasons? If you're taking time off, what can you do now to not just go from, oh, I've been working and then I just completely stop. And then at the other end, okay, well, I've completely stopped and now I have to go from 0 to 100 and straight back into hectic work mode. And actually thinking about how we can gently ease and flow into the different seasons, how we can take care of ourselves, how we can set ourselves up so that we're actually just, we've got these phases that we are transitioning through instead of, for those of us who find transitions difficult, just trying to go from 0 to 100 and then from 100 to 0 as well. That is why so many of us who are neurodivergent can find it hard to switch off, can find it hard to get to sleep because we need that wind down time. And then in the mornings, we need that kind of slow re-entry into just the world, right? And it's so important that we think about this in our business as well as in our lives. If this is kind of something that's new to you, yes, Andrea, please feel free. Hi, Veronica. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry, I just realized I'm like, oh, I should check the chat. Yep, you can pop it in the chat or you can just pop it in the thread in the common room if you would prefer. And I'll answer those once I'm finished as well. So I'll just can I add a link in here? It's pinned at the top, Andrea, if you have a question and you'd like to pop that in. But thank you so much for being here. Sorry, I'm just chatting away to myself. So this is how we can realign and set ourselves up to ease back into the new year or into the time where we are coming back to our business after a break. It is thinking about how can I, what do I need to feel my best to come back? What am I not paying attention to where I will start comparing with other people? And what am I actually doing to come back in? We've all received this before where we haven't heard from someone whose list we probably forgot we were even on because they haven't emailed us for 6 months. And then suddenly we start getting all of these sales or launch emails. And what we want to do is think about like if I was my own audience or follower or subscriber, what would I love to receive from me? What would I find really gentle to ease back into the year? And then what would I be wanting to see from someone that I follow and potentially want to work with or join their program or join their community, in the future. So it's really thinking about that and really putting yourself in the shoes of your ideal client and starting to kind of work backwards. So in the holiday rollout plan, you'll see that's why I have specifically mapped it out to be a December, January, February. You can shift those months forward if you want or need to. If you are already done for the year, it is coming really down to the crunch now. So if you haven't jumped in and started kind of working through that, you can at least start to map out a bit of a plan for when you come back. But you might decide that you're going to just shift it forward. So month 1 is January, month 2 is February, month 3 is March, and you're thinking about like, what is my reintroduction after the holidays? Where are my audience's minds at as we're coming back into the new year? As much as we talk about this all the time, that people are, that it's just another day, that it's just the next day, we also need to remember that humans are creatures of habit. And so, undoubtedly, even though, yes, December 31st and January 1st are just one day after the other, we all kind of have this innate feeling of this is a fresh start. What do I want to achieve this year? What do I want to do that I've been telling myself for years that I want to do and not gotten around to it? So that is some things to think about. And it is not doing everything at once. So this is a mistake that I see often, that we can so often just try to overload our plate to make up for a slower, more winter kind of phase. And winter doesn't have to mean, like I said, it's summer here. So having a winter phase in summer might feel really counterintuitive. But winter, by that, I mean in terms of your visibility, that you might be slowing down, you might be creating less content, you might not be launching anything right now, and you might be in more of a deep reflection or rest mode, that you are not just going to then come straight back out and be in summer. That's why we have transition seasons in just the world. And thinking about, I'm not going to rush into it. How can I start to build up to it? So you'll see the month 2 phase in the holiday plan is based on how can I reactivate? How can I activate the people who I've been calling in this year, who have been signing up for my free content, who've been watching my YouTube or listening to my podcast or are on my email list? How can I reactivate those people? That's why we have kind of like an activation event or offer or experience. That's why I've purposely put that in there so that when we then introduce our offer, to let people know that it's open or it's available or it's brand new and we're launching it, we then have people who are already ready to go. What I see is so many people trying to go from 0 to 100, and it's too cold. You need to warm everyone up, including yourself. That is where we're also trying to do too many things. So it's like, I'm going to do this, this, and this all in the 1 month. And it's like, you can spread that out and it is going to serve you and your audience so much better as a result. And I have been putting a lot of stuff out this month. So I also appreciate that as someone who is multi-passionate and just goes with the energy, that can sometimes feel counterintuitive as well, to be like, oh, if I stop this now, I could have put out 10 other things this month. I'm going to be honest with you. I have so many ideas. So I've actually slowed myself down, but also where we can take that mindful look at how do these work together? How do they build on top of each other? And if there isn't a clear path of that, so for example, I've been talking about the holiday rollout plan for the last few weeks because I created that for one of my clients. And then I decided I wanted to add the one-on-one session for anyone who wants or needs that extra support. They make sense together because a lot of people might have the resources, might have the mini videos to watch, but they don't have the missing piece, which is the guidance, the feedback, the accountability, or the support with somebody who has experience to help them put all their ideas together into the plan. So they work well together as a result of that. And it's really thinking about where am I trying to reach too many different kinds of people? What is my main focus right now? So since November, I have been thinking about what is it that I know everyone in January comes to me worrying about or struggling with, and how can I prepare them for that by starting to talk about it now. So we can also, I've got so many ideas that I keep shelving. I've had a whole heap of trainings that I want to do for the community that I keep pushing back because I go, oh, I'm really excited about this idea, but it's not right now. This is a more important focus. So what we want to do is really kind of narrow it down to have one focus per phase, which allows us to really hone in on that and make the absolute most of it before we start introducing new things. It's going to help us with our content. It's going to help us be more clear about what we're introducing people to, and it's going to help our audience understand if this is the right next step for them or not. So how do we do this in an underthinking kind of way? And this is something that I know is where we get in our heads about. It's like, oh, but I have 50 million ideas. How do I decide what the right one is? And the reality is that there is no right answer. There is just making a choice now that feels the most aligned for you, and then reflecting back on it later and seeing what worked well, what didn't work, what did my audience ask for, what questions did I get. So it's not even, when I talk about underthinking, it's not doing things in a complacent kind of way. It's actually thinking about, how can I take the decision fatigue and the overthinking out of this and run with the thing that intuitively feels the most aligned, that feels like it is going to reflect where my audience and the people I've been talking to are at, and that it is just going with that, making that decision, backing it, being confident in my decision, and knowing that at any point in time, I can change my mind. I can pivot, I can add something else. And again, just to use the example of what I've been doing this month, is creating a really easy kind of do it yourself, but you can come into the group and get support if you want it. And then adding a one-on-one component to that for January for people who have just switched off for this year, who are going to come back in January and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so behind, and they need that extra support to move faster. And I know that they will be able to do that with my support. And that is like, that's literally the whole point of it. It's like you could procrastinate on this for a whole month and then in February still feel exactly the same way. So don't do that, and let's just map it out together in an hour or so. So let's talk about the potential misconceptions of the underthinking in this way of like, what am I putting out? What am I doing in January? What am I starting to do at the start of next year? Because I know so many people around this year are selling and promoting and sharing, or even just doing for yourselves a end of year review and a year-long plan for 2026. And I have always found that takes a lot of energy and a lot of overthinking that usually never plays out. And so what I've found has helped me, and again, you have to do what's right for you, is to have a loose idea of what the year might look like based on where I'm at now, but really focus on 90-day chunks, so that I can have exactly what I've created in the holiday rollout, the kind of bridge offer, or like an introductory kind of offer for people who are thinking maybe they're interested in what I'm doing and not quite sure, an activation event of some sort, and then a more direct and kind of not strategic so much, but like a more clear next step for people who are ready to take that. And I find that means you're not launching all the time and you're not also relying on one massive launch every year, but it helps to just kind of break the year down. It is not lowering standards. It is not disengagement. It is not avoidance to be underthinking things. It is actually starting to operate in less of a headspace, thinking every single thing through and every possible scenario and getting yourself all tangled up, which I know very well. And it's actually starting to feel into what feels right for for me right now? What feels like the right next step? And the more that we can actually move that energy down into our body and start to just move with our intuition, our gut feeling, if that is more aligned for you, we actually start to build that trust with ourselves that we know what we need and we stop paying so much attention to what everybody else is doing, which is really exciting. It helps us to remove the noise, to create space for listening to ourselves and our people, and to let clarity surface instead of forcing something like, oh, Catherine's doing this, so I have to do it like this, or this person that I follow is doing this, so I have to do it like this. And instead, slowing down, tuning all of that out, and then feeling into which feels like the right next step for me. Recalibration isn't about adding something new. It's not about, oh, I've got to do this fancy new shiny thing strategy. It's about choosing what you're not going to do, what doesn't feel right, and really just slowing down and listening, honestly. And that is something that's perfect to do during a break, where you actually just disconnect from all of the inputs, all of the noise externally, and just start to really come back to yourself. It's such a beautiful time to disconnect from everything, delete apps off your phone even, and come back to like journaling and just being in the world and feeling into what you want to do, letting the ideas come to you. I find this time of year to be the most creative time because I'm less plugged in to things, because I have less calls and interruptions throughout the day, and I just get to kind of be in my own little world. It's been like that ever since I was a kid as well. So this is how I have for years thinking about January. Not that I'm just going to completely stop this week and then come back in 3 weeks and just see what happens, but that I'm using the holiday rollout plan to actually give myself some anchor points, set myself up now so that I know exactly what I'm doing when I come back. And it may still change, but it means that I'm not spending the time that I'm taking off like, oh, I should be doing this, or no, I haven't figured this out yet. Oh, like we can't switch our brain off when we don't have those kind of closed loops. And it's really helpful to actually give yourself the time to rest and renew and have, your family time or your travel or whatever it is that you've got planned over the holidays, and come back with that grounded energy of yes, being rested, of knowing what you're working on, and of knowing like, oh, maybe something shifted over the holidays. Maybe that thing I was really excited about before I went away has actually changed because something new has dropped in. Because for the first time all year, we've actually taken that opportunity to stop taking in so much and actually start listening to ourselves. This is not about rushing. This is not about getting as much done before the end of the year or coming back as quickly as you possibly can next year, but actually just giving yourself the space to pop those little anchor points in so that you can switch off. Set up things like your out of office email, if you can afford it, to just have even a lead ad kind of just out there circulating so you've got new people coming through instead of things just stopping completely. If that's a bit further along than where you're at, that's totally fine. You might even pre-schedule a little bit of content, even if it's just things like, thank you so much for being here this year with me. I've really enjoyed it. Just like a pre-scheduled post or a photo of yourself to just say thank you to people so that you don't just completely disappear for months and months and come back knowing, okay, I'm re-entering. This is how I'm gently transitioning out of holiday mode into stepping back into the business, looking at some core things. And then this is how I'm starting to build up to it. As highly sensitive people, introverted people, neurodivergent people, we do struggle with transitions, and we also aren't necessarily like here to there kind of people. We need to like build up our capacity, to build up our focus and our motivation in a way that is going to take care of us instead of the pressure. There's that whole thing about like pressure builds diamonds or turns coal into diamonds or whatever it is. And for so many of us, what it actually does is it dysregulates our nervous system. It creates emotional turmoil and unnecessary stress and anxiety. It gets us into that overthinking and overwhelm mode, and it makes it really hard to make progress and build momentum from that place. It turns off all our creativity. It basically shuts off our head from our whole body. That's one of the best ways I've ever heard it explained. We literally disconnect, and all our energy is up here, just overthinking and like frantic kind of thoughts. And what we want to do is just really gently ease our way into the year. So if you're not sure what that might look like for you, hopefully this just gives you something to think about as you're taking your time off, as you're easing into the new year. But please come into the group if you have any questions about how you can make that work for you as well, or if you're struggling with anything in particular. Now, I'm just going to come back into the group for a second. So yeah, hopefully that's just something I've been thinking about lately, because I know that we're so often trying to create content in a way that's easy to consume, on Instagram or something like that through slides and whatnot. And sometimes we just need to go a little bit deeper into like, yes, that is a thing that happens. And yes, we can acknowledge that, but we also need to like understand the deeper under the surface of like what's really going on for us. And honestly, most of that can be helped by just stopping and listening to ourselves, starting to learn and to trust ourselves, and that we actually know what's best for us. We actually know what the right next decision is. And so often we can outsource our power to others instead of just stopping and listening for a moment to let ourselves receive the right answer to our question. It doesn't mean that we can't get guidance and we can't get feedback and things, but it's so important to just go, this is what I think, and I'm just gonna, check with these things with someone that I trust, or I'm gonna just talk this out with someone, and that can really help. But honestly, that is the biggest lesson that I've learned this year. Okay, so Veronica's question, I did sort of answer yesterday, but I did want to just to kind of address it on a more specific level. So answered. Veronica's question was, I have a question in regards to the bridge offer. I'm promoting my discounted price for my order at $37 before it goes up to $47 on the 1st of January. However, I'm not sure if promoting around Christmas and New Year is okay. When would you send out all the emails so you don't annoy people around Christmas? Or maybe I'm overthinking this. I've planned emails to be sent out tomorrow about the product, then Monday, Wednesday is just Merry Christmas. And then on the 29th to 31st, I'm planning to send 2 to 3 emails as final reminders to lock in a lower price. So my main question is, how would you schedule these emails around Christmas and New Year's? So I actually shared in the group a just like a behind the scenes of, because I wrote my emails out yesterday, and I'm doing a similar kind of thing in terms of I've got my one-on-one offer. I just announced it this morning via email. Actually, I didn't check to see if that email went out. Yes, it did. Okay, cool. I scheduled it yesterday. I'm going to do kind of my last podcast episode for the year next week, and I'll have kind of a reminder in there. They'll be linked to each other, and then I'll probably just have one last reminder email. This is me personally, because I do know it is a little bit different around this time of year versus normally we would send, 3 reminder emails, because people do inevitably miss them. That is because normally people's inboxes are pretty busy. And so it's just helpful to remind people like, hey, this is ending in 24 hours, 12 hours, 6 hours. But at this time of year, I think this is just my hypothesis. People will be using their phones and checking their emails less. And so as a result, they're not necessarily going to miss it because they've, had too many emails and they just haven't, or they thought about it and they're like, oh, I'll get back to that. My kind of guess is that they're just not going to be checking as often. So absolutely schedule those in and see what happens. We can compare data afterwards. But if that feels like too much for you, this is how I always gauge it for myself. How, like, would it feel like too much for me if I was receiving them? And just like letting people know, hey, this is the last time I'm going to mention it before the end of the year kind of thing. But yeah, definitely test it and see. Look, at the end of the day, like, we just don't know. We just don't know. People might come back, especially because of what you do. People are getting back into fitness like from January 1 and really started to think about that. So you might find it actually works really well for you. Yeah, I would just give it a go and see. But if you feel like maybe you want to do less emails, I think that can, would maybe be worth thinking about as well. I hope you can't hear my stomach grumbling through the mic. Oh my God, it's so loud. I don't know why I'm hungry all of a sudden. So yeah, to have a think about because it's only like a $10 saving. I would probably err on the side of like less emails. And then what you can do is you can just you've still got kind of a couple of weeks in January even that you can still promote the 47 because $10 isn't that big of a difference. So they're not saving that much if they get in before the end of the year. So I would even think about maybe just your Merry Christmas one and then yeah, one or two because people who knows? Like, honestly, I don't even know these days. That's just going to be my honest truth there. We just don't know. People have obviously got their emails on their phones and things. I know a lot of people put their out of office emails on and they don't check their emails. All we can do is test, review at the end, see where your open rates dropped off, and then make a plan for what comes next, but also to have that data to keep in mind for next year as well. So this comes back to the same thing that I said before. What we're actually really doing when we're creating these plans from scratch is we're actually setting ourselves up to be able to refine and update every year. We're doing the work now for our future selves to benefit from because every year as we collect more data, and that's in terms of things like open rates, how many of this, if you did the same offer at the same time every single year, that would really help you to see like what works well and what doesn't. And then you can test new things out and you can change your data set a little bit to be able to over time actually know your audience really, really well. But what most of us don't do is we don't continuously do things in that kind of way and think that long term about our business that we are then setting ourselves up in a way that instead of creating new things every single year, we're actually just refining a little bit, collecting the data, and then comparing it to like, okay, this happened last year. This is what I did differently. What am I going to leave a note for myself for next year to try or to do differently? And then obviously you'll gather 12 months of data because, like, for example, this year has been quite different from last year. And so you'll then have all of the information and things you've observed and tracked for 12 months, and then you compare it to last year, and then you can make your little tweaks and changes based on that new information. And then you leave a note for next year. Like we're thinking about our business in terms of I know you're much younger than me, Veronica, but like I'm 40. I could be doing this for another 40 years, right? Because that's the kind of business that I would love to set up, one that I can just continue to work for, even if it was just another 20 years. That's so much information that we can be continuing to build on and evolve versus just starting fresh every single time and every single year. So Veronica said, thanks for answering. Yes, I've decided to just send an email on the 29th and then the 31st and see what happens. Awesome. Yeah. That's what have I scheduled in? I did one today. I'm going to do one maybe on Monday next week, and that will be linked to the podcast episode, and then one the following week. So I'm still like, oh, maybe I'll send two the following week. We'll see. We'll see. I'll see how I feel. And this is like so much how I operate things. It's like, oh, I've done this, I've made that decision, and then I'm going to feel into how it feels next week as well. And also prepare for the fact of like, oh, and then in the first 2 weeks of January, people are going to be back in like go mode. And so they might have been completely ignoring that in December, but now they're ready to go. And so there's also an opportunity to remind people that that is still available if you have spots still there. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, Andrea said, I've been pretty absent from the group for several months for life reasons. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed trying to reorient myself where to jump back in. So this chat is very timely to add absent from the group, but also a break from biz for several months during that time. Did you have a question? I'll just check if you popped a question in the group. Your question is where to start from? If you can just let me know, Andrea. And I can see there's a few of you here. If you have any questions as well, we've got a bit of extra time. So please feel free to jump into the group and leave your questions in there. it is helpful to be able to tag you and also for the replay because then people know what the question is. I'm going to assume that you're not sure where to jump back in. Yeah, cool. Okay. So answered. What are we at? Uh, question. Okay, so it really depends what your goals are. And you're welcome to keep me updated if you want to give me kind of an update. No, no, that's fine. That's fine. Um, so please feel free to give me an update in your growth plan if you'd like, or otherwise, like that's fine. I can direct you to, we can kind of talk it out in there. But let me just share my screen. So it really depends what your goals are. I mean, at this time of year, it's a bit trickier because you might be just sort of starting to slow down and thinking about what is it that you really need to focus on right now. So I generally direct people to the reset if they've kind of just joined the community or are just kind of coming back and just feeling a bit overwhelmed and everything, because this is specifically designed to just help you to kind of slow down and tap back into what you want and need. So if you're in that place, I'm actually going to be updating this in January. That is my January kind of reset. So at the moment, it is designed as a 7 day, a little 7 day challenge. But because I have the focus flow challenge now, and that is like my main focus for the group, I'm actually going to rework the format of this a little bit so it's not too many 7 day challenges for everyone. But this is a really helpful way for you to just reconnect with where you're at, what it is that you want. And actually, for anyone over the holidays, if you just need something really chill, like as you can see, the videos are really short and you just want to do a bit of a reset, you might find this really helpful, or you might want to just join the live round where I'm updating it in January as well. So that is where I usually redirect everyone who is just like, oh my gosh, I'm so ungrounded right now. I don't even know where to begin. So that is kind of my overall. This is where I direct most people when they've had a break from the common room and my world. Now, the focus flow challenge is again specifically a 7 day, just teeny tiny prompts. This is for once you've decided what you want, and now is the time to start. Instead of just going like, oh my gosh, I want to change everything and completely overwhelming yourself and overthinking about thinking it. This is actually teeny tiny steps each day that build on top of each other for 7 days. It is really low lift. They should not be taking you more than like 10 minutes to finish each day. And what we're doing is just getting into a habit of showing up in our business, showing up for 10 minutes and doing just one thing. And really just getting into a flow of that. Because what I find is the most difficult, exactly like I said at the top of this call, that we kind of go, 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 stop, and then it's like so much, the more time that passes between stop and restart, the harder it is to get restarted. So, what I love to do is, yes, have bigger seasons where more is happening, more visibility, more content, more just showing up and being out in the world. But even in rest phases, still not completely stopping because I know how hard that re entry can be. And that is what I have found for me personally over the years. I don't expect anyone to be like on Christmas Day, putting stuff out or sharing content or anything like that. I won't even be doing that. I will be watching Stranger Things. To be honest, I'm more excited about that than Christmas. Um, and but it's like just having even just an energy check-in, like where am I at today? And that is the main focus of this challenge. I know that even just using the word challenge is off-putting for a lot of people. Using the daily kind of focus is like, oh my gosh, every day? Yeah, every day. If you want to build something sustainable, even if it's just, I'm just showing up today and I'm going, you know what? I'm really tired, so I'm not going to do anything today. You're still energetically showing up for yourself, the work you're here to do, and the business that you're creating, even if it means today is not the day. And so that is a habit that we're building in the Focus Flow Challenge. Again, I'm going to run it kind of live again next year, probably in February. It just depends at the moment. I'm still kind of working that out, feeling into it again. But that might be helpful if you know what you want, and now it's just a case of like, okay, now I just need to start building that momentum up. Um, what else have we got in here that is, and then the holiday rollout. So this is what I've been talking about. In this call in particular and in the group a bit. And this is basically just a thinking about what I'm doing for the next 3 months so that I'm not going away, taking a break, and then coming back and going like, oh, it's the end of January. What should I do this year? And getting into panic mode because, like I said, when our nervous system, like when those, it's kind of like I feel like it's like a barrier. This barrier is down, our resistance is really low because we're kind of in fight or flight panic mode. That is when we're more susceptible to be like, oh my God, I've got to do something. I've got to buy something that's going to fix this for me. And what I'm trying to prevent with this is like just go into the holidays with a bit of a plan mapped out. It's specifically, purposely, very small sections for you to fill out. And you'll, if you watch the videos in the group, you'll see I'd sort of started it the other day and I went, I'll come back to that later. I'm just going to get these ideas down. And as I was filling it out, I was like, oh, I could link that with this and then that would make more sense. And so you'll see it's really more about just capturing so that when you come back, you can kind of go, okay, cool, I know what I want to do here. And as you can see, there are planning prompts in here as well. There are email templates that I've just added. And I basically, in just a few minutes per section in the spreadsheet, just go through exactly why I've designed it this way. So that could be perfect. That could be helpful for you if you're in a place of like, oh, you know what? I know what my offer is. I just don't know how to transition into the new year. I want to have a solid plan for January, February. This would be a great place for you to start as well. So hopefully that gives you a few options. You know, with me, it's always choose your own adventure. It's always thinking about, I'm not going to say you must do this thing first. It is where you are right now. What are your goals? And then what do I have available for you that is going to help you to get to your goal in a way that is most aligned for you? The other thing that is also in the group this month only is my latest mini book, Recalibrate. And so for anyone who was like, nah, I'm in holiday mode, I'm not doing any spreadsheets, I'm not watching any trainings, I understand. And that is why Recalibrate is available this month as well in the group. I've sort of moved things around a little bit because I know it can get overwhelming. And so what I'm intentionally doing in the community is making sure that it's not just like dumping you with heaps and heaps of content. It's always intentional and it's not always going to be, this is just here forever. This is literally going to be here just for this month. So this is about 27 pages, I think. Did I say it in here? I think it's about 27 pages. These are my biggest lessons from this year. And it is not actually really about business that much at all. It is about boundaries. It is about self-leadership, self-trust, and really coming back to like taking care of me, knowing what I need, and designing my business around that, which is really a through theme in my work. But every year I have found that I have been focusing on this in particular has just been a deepening of that experience. It has been lose yourself a little bit and then come back to yourself in a bigger way. And so I'm sharing that in this book. So if you're just looking for something that you can just chill out, by the pool or by the fire, depending on which corner of the world you live in. I know, Andrew, it's probably very cold where you are right now. You might just want to grab this and just really kind of sink into the energy of what that has been, that journey has been like, what I've taken from it, how we do tend to veer off path and sometimes, give our power away or get distracted by things. And that is the journey that we're on. It is not a case of, oh, well, once I figure this out, I'll be fine. It's, I'm going to get distracted and then I'm going to come back to myself and the work that I'm here to do. So that is also an option. Like I said, choose your own adventure, what feels like what you need right now. And you have a few options there that hopefully can help you to just like, again, ease back into the space versus feeling like you have to come in and I'm just going to like throw all of this stuff at you. So thank you so much for asking, because what I find, and for anyone who's running their own community, this is something that is so important that we are mindful of. Life gets in the way, people get busy, and they, disappear and then they want to come back. And how can we always be creating opportunities for people who maybe don't ask? And what we see is people don't ask and then they come in and they just cancel. And so I'm always thinking about ways of like, how can I nurture people so that they're not completely disappearing forever and then they come back and feel overwhelmed and run away, but how can we actually be like, hey, here are a few options for you. Which one of these feels good? Which one of these sounds like what you need right now? And I am still figuring it out myself, but for anyone who's running a membership or a community, that is something to always think about too, because everyone is different. Everyone has different needs and they're in your world for a different reason. And it's so important to be thinking about that. And not everyone, and I really appreciate you, Andrea, for actually asking, because not everyone asks. They just kind of go eek and run away. And so that's why you'll notice I say this all the time. If you have any questions, let me know. You can send me a DM, you can post in the group, because I can't help you and I can't be the tour guide, the tour guide that I want to be, the best tour guide I can be for you if I don't know where you're at and what you need help with. So thank you so much, Andrea, for asking. I know that sometimes it's hard to even do that. Sometimes it's hard to ask, and it's hard to be like, hey, I disappeared. But life does happen. Life does get in the way. And so I appreciate that, and I hope that you're doing okay. And also, like, how can we be mindful of that and encourage people and help them to be directed to what they need. So that's what you're always going to get with me. It's always going to be choose your own adventure. I never want anyone to feel pressured to participate in something we're doing in the group together. But please always feel free to ask me as well. I'm so glad you were able to join as well. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any other questions, but I think that was it. Thank you both so much for being here. I can see there's a few more people, but it's fine to be quietly observing. That is no worries at all. I'm just going to double check the... No, no, that's fine. I've just popped the time code for you there if you want to watch that back at all, but please feel free to just send me an email as well, because Andrea is one of our lovely Emergent Expand members. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that that has given you some things to think about. Please come into the group if you have any follow-up questions. Otherwise, I will see you in there, or have a beautiful holiday and I will catch you on the other side as well. But yeah, I'm happy to share any ideas for what your December, February rollout is going to be. And if you have any follow-up questions, please, as always, just let me know.